Hello, hi, and welcome back to another episode of In the Same Boat with Aditya Joshi. And I'm your host, Aditya Joshi. Okay, I know that everything looks different today because it is different. This is a very special episode because I never thought that this episode would happen. I have been following our guest for a very long time on Instagram, and I've been extremely intrigued by everything that he has to say. It's so informative, it is so thought provoking, and it is extremely exciting. And so I reached out to him on Instagram, and he was so sweet to respond immediately. And he agreed to do the show. And I am so thrilled about that. So, my next guest is he's an author, a filmmaker, personally for me, an absolute inspiration for artists. Seriously, if you haven't followed his account, go follow it because he's really good. He's a TEDx speaker and so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aditya Kripalani. Hi,
Yeah,
how are you?
Aditya. I'm fine.
This
Yeah, how
is
are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
I don't know if you
absolutely
are you able to
sorry.
hear the tram? There's a tram line just below my house, so I don't
Oh
know if you're able.
no, I'm not being able to hear it. But yeah, some nice tram background music would be nice for this episode because we've never done this. This is the first time that we're doing it on Zoom. So the day you said that yes, you'll be able to do it and you'd like to do it, we literally rushed and we figured out how we're going to do this, how we're going to set everything up, and how we're going to make everything happen. So, firstly, I would love to thank you for agreeing to do this and coming and talking to me because I think it genuinely does mean a lot to
Thank you. That's kind, Aditya.
me.
You
Well,
talk to your own name.
yeah, I know. I was just about to say that.
That's the only name you're not used to saying, no? You normally.
Yes, it isn't. So I mean, please feel free to call me by any other name this
No, no, of
entire
course not.
episode. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. I watched your TEDx speech that you gave, and in which you speak a lot about artists and freedom, and how expensive the filmmaking business can be, and which is true to so much, like true to such a great extent. But now, do you think that with the phone cameras and everything, the accessibility to a camera per se is increasing? So, do you think that that is a game changer where more people can or should, opt for these kinds of tools to make films slightly cheaper, so to say?
The thing is that I don't think filmmaking has become any cheaper because to get it onto an OTT platform, they still have specifications which you can only adhere to
Yeah,
if you have a DSL or a proper 4K.
yeah,
And now,
mm,
now for originals, there is even
mm-hmm,
a further separate list which is available online on the platforms
mm-hmm,
themselves, where you need a certain kind of camera. You can't even use just a
mm-hmm,
4K. So if they say 4K, use any 4K camera, very specific about. So there, it's
yeah,
not really cheaper here. It's just cheaper in the head because once you, let's say, you make a which was the one Blair Witch project, for example.
Blair Witch,
If
yeah,
you it'll go to festivals, but no platform will take it because it doesn't meet their specifications. So I
right,
don't think film become cheaper. And the second thing is that having followed a capitalist model specifically and
mm-hmm,
becoming the largest like embracer of social media in the world, our
mm-hmm,
country is hype driven. So
right,
till it's not like to make films by cell phones. That's why nobody makes it. If you can tell me one filmmaker below 25 who has made any feature film of any prominence in our whole country, I'll change my name and make it another one for the.
well, yeah, I mean, yes, that is,
That means technology becoming easier is not making us make more films because you make
mm-hmm,
people right now. According to me, I could be very wrong, and I
right,
could be an uncle talking about younger generation. One of those cliches. According to me, now nobody in the 2021, 2023 is wants to make films because they want to make films. Not nobody, but largely it's the hype. That hype comes
right,
only if you get on OTT platform and you get
mm-hmm,
some major festival and you get like anything else. Like you wear a certain color of Jordan sneakers because it's hype. It's like that.
hype, yeah,
So it's very rare now that somebody comes to me and they want to become a filmmaker because they have a story to tell. I think along the way they might because they've
mm-hmm,
started that journey as an artist, and that once you start that journey, things start happening in the head which you don't have any control over.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I, because it's so hype driven, people are not making it with cell phones because that's not getting anywhere.
Right,
It's like,
right. But I mean, there has been a change in the like, at least this is what I personally feel, that there has been a change in the scope of making content. Like, for example, as you said, I mean, there is hype, for sure, but channels like YouTube aren't don't have any specifications, so it's at least it's
yeah,
become easier to at least get out your side of the story, or your
I,
story per se.
but I'm saying that the intent to make films is changing a lot. There
Right.
are much
Okay.
less people getting into filmmaking because they really have a burning story to tell. That's
Mm-hmm.
become less, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then, if you, that's why I'm saying, if you can tell me even a filmmaker under 27, 25 can't make it 27, let's make it 28. Tell me a
Yeah.
filmmaker under it was made a really good feature film in all languages. It's that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Okay. It is. I mean, but I think perhaps that question came from because because content creation in general has
That's
increased a lot with the advent of good cameras and cell phones. So I mean, I
right.
always wondered that like, because I personally don't have that in me to sort of get together a team and shoot something, even if it's just to shoot on a phone. But I think that's where the question came from, that is it going to
Yeah, yeah.
change, or is it going to be
I also was hoping that it will be that there will be many more filmmakers who are younger and who will kind of. But I've realized that we are buying into filmmaking largely for the hype,
Mhm,
unfortunately, at this point.
mhm,
Uh, which is why our way of choosing a film,
mhm.
and it is chicken and egg thing. So, like platforms like Netflix and Amazon and all, they started focusing on what's new. Maybe
Mhm.
because they saw people, I don't know, but that's how it started.
Right.
Like there was algorithm of new, fresh, fresh, fresh. And
Mhm,
so
mhm.
our way of choosing something is also, there's this fresh thing. Then festivals also have this thing. Like if your film is more than 1 year old, you can't go to a festival. So
Yeah.
there is almost expiry date on a film being consumed. I mean,
Mhm.
no, of course, you will still go back and watch a famous film again from the past, but a
Right.
film that you've not heard of. Like there is this hype quotient that has come in very, very deeply into our, because it's part of our culture. So it's come into our
Mhm.
cinema viewing as well. It's like people are not watching Scorsese's film because they know him necessarily at 21. It's
Yeah.
because
They're
there's hype
watching
around.
it. Mhm.
Yeah,
It's because
that's,
the cool, like, if you
yeah,
haven't seen a Scorsese film, you're like the
yeah,
weirdo who
yeah.
and
And
there is
so
no
that
scope.
letterbox as well. And you also have the reverse of this hype culture. Just a random thing. I'll
Mhm.
shut up after that. But let's say, there was this whole thing with Kabir Singh being sexist, as a film. There was this whole,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that's also kind of hype because it's a lot of conversation chatter around one
Mhm.
topic. So
Mhm.
Arjun Reddy is still a 3.5 and Kabir Reddy is 2. Kabir Singh is 2.9. It's the same film on
Yeah.
letterbox. That's how hard hype hits us. If you're angry with the film, then be angry with the source film. No, how have you forgotten about that? That's a different film.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, that is.
That
Some, so I
that
don't
actually
know
is
the
a
exact
great example.
numbers, but yeah,
Yeah, but that's a great example of how hype can
yeah,
uh, change people's perspective on on almost anything.
yeah.
Just but I also, I mean, this is a very great perspective. But there is so, like, I have so much to talk to you about with your Instagram posts and with the TEDx talk that you gave, even your films. Um, you Another point that struck me
Become
was
like
that
5 years, so I've become an Instagram filmmaker. So hopefully I
yeah.
have some film. I'm going to become that guy. Anyway,
No, but here's the thing. Like, I think very recently, you posted about it. Like, um, like, not just showing, uh, because Instagram is a space where filmmaking is glorified. It's shown as this grand big thing where things are easy and it just happens. But I think you
yeah,
made this post where you said that it's not always easy, and it's not always a smooth sailing. There are a lot of this thing. So I think I really do appreciate that, because a lot of times artists don't speak about it, how
that's fair.
difficult it can be. And that's why I said that I want to talk to you about your Instagram, because because there's a lot of very, very real stuff. Like I remember we've had with my friends. I don't remember the exact topic right now, but we've had arguments. Like we've seen your post and we just started discussing about it and be like, no, that's not how it should be. No, this is how it should be. But and I think that's a great thing that you have been able to do.
Thanks, man. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. And this is not. I'm just being factual. That it's also uh, technically that I've made a film every year, and then the last 3 years, 4 years, there's been no film out. So hopefully,
Yeah,
2024 we'll be able to get. And the strangest thing is that the film I made about suicide prevention, which became very painful because we've had the worst 2 years of suicide in our country in the last 2 years
yeah,
in
hmm,
ads, and that film also has just not been bought. So it's just been a crazy last 4 5 years.
yeah,
So it's very strange, but people from Spain have rated the film on Letterboxd because it released in Spain. But the country I made it for, where the problem really exists in a much
yeah.
more high number.
Hmm.
So the business of filmmaking is really something else. For the Instagram post, I agree that I have been consciously putting stuff out because when I was younger, there was an Anurag Kashyap and there were other people like a Saeed Mirza, like Govind Nilani Saab when I was much
Hmm.
younger.
Hmm.
So I used to talk about things and they made films about things around me or things that or let's say that I would never have understood what the life of a villager feels like had I not seen Par,
Yeah.
which had Nasir Saab has been trying to cross this river with their
Hmm.
cattle. So
Hmm.
things like that. I have enough of that now. And so, yes, it is important to talk about. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, right now, since you mentioned the business of filmmaking, they're two very separate entities, I feel, like the business side of films and the creative. So though like they're intricately interwoven, but they're
Yeah.
still different. Um, so for you, how like since Tikli and Lakshmi Bomb, how easy or difficult was it for you to navigate these two sides of filmmaking? One is the business, and then the creatively what you wanted to say.
It's been very, 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 very difficult. I've had I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it here with the trigger warning about suicide or not. Am I?
I mean, sure, we can. You can. We'll put a trigger warning for this.
Yeah. So I've after year and a half after trying to make Tota, not today. I tried to kill myself, and of course it was during the pandemic, and it was I think everybody went through. I think we're still carrying a lot of what has happened during the pandemic. I see it around in people that there's still a residue of it psychologically, most
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm.
Um, and so it is that difficult. I have to put this out there because it's that difficult. If you want to, uh, ironically, and I've, of course, there's a post about this on my Instagram as well. But as
Hmm.
usual, Instagram use the for the reach of that post. You know how
Is
it is. So,
low. Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. It's
a post
really
about it
messed
like
up. Yeah.
6 months after this has happened because I wanted to talk. So it is that difficult that you will reach really low points, and ironically, in a country that makes many more films because it's a business and it's commerce, it's
Hmm.
more difficult to have to say something. I think it's easier
Right.
in a country with less cinema. For example, if I had made Not Today in Germany, it would have been out on Netflix by now for sure. I'm almost 100% sure.
Hmm.
Because there is no star system here. I live here now,
Right.
7 months, six,
Hmm.
7 months a year I live here.
Okay. Nice.
This also came after that. Like I really want to live 10 minutes away from a river and I want certain things in my life which I don't want to negotiate on those.
Yeah.
And so we live 10 minutes away from a river and we have a garden just downstairs. Very basic things where I can go and read a book and things which I had in Bombay as a child and in Pune as a child, which now
Uh-huh.
they don't anyway.
Uh,
But like
wow.
you, please tell me where you want me to go and I'll go there.
No, no, no. I mean, I'm loving all of the and the conversation that's going on because it is, like I said, it has been absolutely fascinating uh, to me. And again, like I've always wanted to talk to you, so this is even more exciting. Like I think this is the first episode where I'm actually a little nervous to talk to someone because it's just very exciting because I saw, okay, firstly Tikli and Lakshmi Bomb. I mean, I that's all I just want to say, and you can just talk about it. I will listen for sit here and listen. But uh, like I wanted to ask, like, because it's the first feature
that you did, and this is based on your own novel of the same name. So I'm really curious to know, like, when, why, and how did you decide that this novel that you had written needed to be made into a film, and such a beautifully done film?
I don't know. I like when I look back at it technically, I find it very, very weak.
Mhm.
But I still feel it has a lot of heart. I know I'm saying this myself, so it sounds
Mhm.
strange, but I'm just going to be honest about what I feel about my own film, and that is, of course,
Yeah.
my perspective on it. But I still think it has a lot of heart, and the ending of it is really, really evocative. So
Yes.
that, like, uh, and what's interesting is that now when I look back, because now we've just made our sixth film,
Mhm.
uh, and now when I look back, I realize that the intimate relationship between two or three people is what is really my focus. When I
Right.
was younger, lot more anger against a system, which everyone does, and
Yeah.
so I think I created the whole plot of the film about the system. But I think
Mm.
what people form even now is still just Tikli and Lakshmi in terms of their
Yeah.
relationship,
Mhm.
starting at a certain point and then sisterhood above all becoming the theme of the film.
Yes.
And then that same intimate equation between two people became Tota Pataka. Again, there was rage against the system, and which happened
Mhm.
to be very, very clearly in that case in Delhi. But the relationship between Shalini and Chitra's character became, for me, the at least as a filmmaker, really the exciting part, or
Right.
also or the
Right.
softer part of the film. And then it's
Mhm.
gone on
Hmm.
like that. Hero was a therapist and a client or a patient. Then Not Today was is about a person saving another person from trying to kill themselves. So it has
Yeah.
become,
Yeah.
very new film we made with Nawaz Saab is two people only.
Mhm.
So it's
Hmm.
everything we've been doing has, I've realized, has now just funneled into just those two people. The system has stopped to exist so much as I've grown older, and just about people in some
Yeah.
sense.
Okay. But
But did you know when you had written the novel that you wanted to make a film, or was it that later you realized that this is something that can transcend from a novel to a movie?
to a film.
Working in advertising, I had just
Mhm.
written a novel as express myself, because if I was just working in advertising without writing novels, I would have been mind fucked like much earlier. Uh, and I was working in advertising. I had released the book Tikli and Lakshmam, and it had very good reviews from Sunday Guardian and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Type. And then my boss one day gave me a pink slip. When he gave me a pink slip, and he asked me, he took me out to coffee and said, "You're done with this job."
Yeah.
And while giving me that pink slip, despite the fact that my some of my ad films had gone to Cannes and won awards and all, he said, "You're not meant for advertising." He meant it in a derogatory way. That
Oh.
you're not good at advertising. You're not good
Yeah.
enough. You're not enough writer to be in advertising.
Mhm.
I think I just thought, why have I brought myself to this point where I topped my FTI interview, in 2003. And then in the year, whatever, whenever I made taking like from 2017, 2016, I have to hear this from somebody. So why have I brought myself to this point? Why have I given
Right.
myself into this system where I think that made me want to make the film. And Tikri Lakshmam is also about a revolution, about starting something of your own
Yeah.
in some sense,
Mhm.
which is pure and protected. So I think the film kind of came out of that in some sense.
It is like it's a really, really, really for me personally, I think it's a really, really well made film, and like it, I really thoroughly enjoyed. Like even the actors that you've cast, they're such phenomenal performers, and it's so raw and real. That was absolutely fantastic watch. Like it's seriously, guys, it's a must watch. Please, please, please go onto YouTube and watch that film. It is the best time that you will spend. I assure you that. Now that you were talking about a little bit of your journey, you have a very unique voice, which I really love. That there's a lot of uniqueness to you. So is like after that point or before that, was it after the pink slip incident, or after it or before it? Sorry, I'm getting a little nervous. Was it before or after the pink slip incident that you sort of found that voice, or how long did it take for you to find your voice? Because you always speak about how important it is for an artist to know their own voice first, and sort of then say something.
I think you kind of develop it along the way. And for example, I had done a very, very cliched short division to Tikli and Lakshman, which would have made it a much more commercial feeling film. I mean, see, in India, we think of handheld and paise nahi, which is stupid. You people make very expensive films. Like Jason Bourne is also handheld.
Yeah.
Money. Like the budget of Tikli and Lakshman was 2.5 times the budget of Not Today. And Not Today looks much more polished because it's not handheld. That's all. It's just our perception of.
Yeah.
So we had Lakshman ka pura short division, which was a coverage type short division, which is a master and an. And then I remember seeing Rohit Mittal's film at Mami, which was called Autohead. And Rohit Mittal is a very dear friend now. And he was standing outside the cinema theater. And Autohead was it's a mockumentary, that kind of, where you, it's all, you don't know whether it's fiction or it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I came out from watching the film, I thought, what an idiot I am that I've gone and done coverage type. Why have I written a short division which is so cliched and safe? And so Aditya Sharma, who's the DOP of Tikli Nanswam, and I had both gone to see the film together, and Anuradha, I think, as well, who was the chief AD. And we went home and we redid the entire short division. So I think you're constantly finding your voice. Like you see things around and it resonates with you, and then you take it in.
Right.
And then that becomes part of your voice. So then keeping it as possible. And then I'd gone and studied acting from the outside. Like I'd gone and sat in class for 4 months. It was called Jeff Goldberg's acting studio. It's in Bandra and Bombay.
Yes. Yeah.
For 4 months, Jeff had allowed me to sit and just watch his class. I had this thick beard at that time, and nobody knew what I'm doing there. So I used to just sit there and watch. And I saw him giving feedback to actors in a very non-judgmental way. I remember that way. He used to never say a word, even a word that would make them feel judged. For example, if he felt something was too loud, he wouldn't say that. He would just go and say, find another way to say it, which is just makes you feel not judged. And I felt that actors blossomed in that environment. So that's something also I learned. And that became my voice. But that's what I'm trying to say, that if somebody else was watching that same thing, they might have not resonated with it. And so they wouldn't have, वो उसको अपनाते नहीं. आपको जो सुनाई दे रहा है वो आपको जमे नहीं तो आप उसको अपनाओगे नहीं. तो वो जमता है, फिर आप उसको अपनाते हो, फिर आपकी आवाज बन जाती है. It's a bit like that.
Right. But yeah, and voices are personal. Like voices are so personal, and that's what makes it very unique to you. And once it becomes personal, you kind of get you have to be vulnerable, not get, but you have to be vulnerable in order to be personal. And you are like, I have a feeling, or again going back to Instagram, but looking at those posts, I have the feeling that you're a very, very vulnerable and open person. Firstly, is that true? And secondly, if that is, then getting here, like, has vulnerability ever scared you? Not just personally, but also in terms of your art.
Of course, it scares me all the time. Like I do let people, example, Anuradha, who's working as a chief AD with us, is now our daughter. I mean, I have this tattoo which I've never shown anywhere. I've not put a picture, but here you go. I don't know if you can read it. It says Anu Bitia.
Yeah.
So I become like a daughter to Shweta and me, and she treats us like her godparents, like a second set of parents. So that's how I let people in, from the people I work with. Like Aditya Sharma was also a dear friend, and at some level will always. So sometimes the right people come in, and sometimes you also get really badly hurt because your judgment may be wrong at that point. And more than right or wrong, you're also evolving and you're also learning how to deal with things and people. And sometimes I may also be too intense a human being for somebody, and so I will lose people. So it's like
Yeah.
but you're a funnel, and everything that you let in, like I have this other tattoo that kind of explains things to me. It says, I don't know if you can see it on this. It says, "Writing is the." You see it here?
Yeah, yeah. Writing is the answer.
Yeah. So that
Nice.
also, yeah. So whatever from the vulnerability ka funnel, whatever comes in, whether you hurt or you gain in your life or good things happen, everything is up giving you another, perspective or one more step in your journey from where you can speak again. In some sense, it's like 4 कदम पहले मैं वहां से बात कर रहा था तो अलग सुनाई दे रहा था लोगों को. अब मैं 4 कदम आगे चुका हूं तो यहाँ से अगर बात करूंगा तो आवाज अलग ही आएगी.
Right.
That's really cool. The nice thing about life कि आप गिर गए हो या आप उड़ रहे हो या आप फिसल चुके हो या आप धराशायी हो गए हो, जहां से भी आप बात करो वो अलग सुनाई देती है आवाज. So then you have to just keep speaking, and in some sense it works.
Okay, yeah. Right now, you also mentioned a little bit of safety, and I think you've spoken about artists and how they tend to focus on their safety. But this is something I find so common when like when I'm talking to my actor friends or when I'm talking to anyone for that matter, writers, directors. There's this inherent sort of conundrum that whether about one is about you have to pay bills, so you need to work, and then the other is doing quality work, that this is not something I want to do, but then abhi koi aur kaam nahi aa raha hai to mujhe ye karna padega. So like when we talk about safety of or not taking or taking risks or taking big decisions, where does this play into? Because this is something that's seen all over Mumbai, and I'm guessing all over the world wherever this industry or an industry like this exists.
I don't know. Like I think for everyone, like I would only say that all of us, whoever our cinematic heroes are or artistic heroes, and I say this of course in a gender-free manner, but whoever our people are that we've looked up to, they would also from the beginning of time have had to look out for their living and to look out for paying rent and look out for. So that is never going to change, and unfortunately, that is also why you need literally like rocket level of power to get out of that orbit of everyday living, because that too you have to deal. All of us just have to deal with it, and it's extremely cumbersome and painful and frustrating. But that's just how it is, and still you have to be able to focus on that body of work thing. Yeah, I find let's say you look at an actor like Tilottama Shom, who's come from outside this industry in the year 2000. I've often given an example of her career. In the year 2000, she did Monsoon Wedding.
Yeah.
So her first performance is with one of the best filmmakers in the world, and it's Monsoon Wedding, and it goes all over the world. And it's taken her till 2021 to do Sir, which really changed the trajectory of her career. So that's 21. And in that 21 years, if you go and look at a body of work, you find a ton of good work. So I'm sure she also dealt with. So it is a lot of being able to say no when you don't have money. It is a lot of being, but this is just part of life. I'm not going to, I think it's not fair to tell people that this is the only way, because sometimes you may need, that's fine. You need to, all of us have done work, but then do a job, do something else. Find something else you can do for money, which is an ancillary. Teach acting, teach writing. That's fine. That's what I would recommend. But don't do, and there's also that, because once you start doing work which you're not invested in, that becomes the new habit. It's very difficult to get out of that. If it was easy that you can do stuff, then everybody would have figured that out. But it's not, obviously. And that's why you have people, once they lost, they kind of lost only. It's not like you find the same actor or the same filmmaker. It's very rare that you have a Hansal Mehta or an Anubhav Sinha, or you have cases there when people come back.
Yeah. Yeah, because like artists, like it can be very lonely being an artist.
I feel that it can be a very lonely process, especially when you're feeling like कि लोग सुन नहीं रहे हैं, like लोगों को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि my voice is not being heard or people are not understanding. So in those times, like I would love to know if you have gone through those times, or how did you manage to get through that and find that audience or find that voice that resonated with audiences, because I think that would like definitely help a lot of people to understand that this is a very common thing that happens. Loneliness is very common in being an artist.
So also, since part of your question was how do you find an audience, or how do you find
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
one words? How did you find that audience for your own work? How did you find that? So I would say that thanks to Anurag Saab, what I understood is that people don't just buy your film; they also buy you. And I don't mean that
Mm.
with the word buy, but they're kind of
Yeah.
taking in who you are
Mhm.
as a person along with your film. And
Mhm.
more and more, that's the world we live in. Because when Anurag Saab came out, there wasn't any Instagram also.
Yeah.
So there was no way to really know him. Thanks to Passion for Cinema, you got to know who he is and what he feels about things. And I used to read it every day, whatever he used to write. And all the other filmmakers also started coming on board. But he was the most vociferous and vocal person on that platform. Uh, and so then I felt that it's really important to, like a large part of, as you said, people nowadays see my films because of the Instagram post, which is kind of funny, embarrassing. Well, because who am I? Am I a filmmaker or am I an Instagram poster?
you're, you're,
But I
you're
understand that
getting
You're getting dangerously close to being an influencer now.
the point is still that,
yeah.
see, the good thing is that I would have been a little worried about that if I was not making films, but because 6 years I've made 7 years, I've made 6 films. So from my side, I've been doing my job. The release of films is not, I was reading this nice book called The Creative Act, which few years ago I would have found very silly. But now I find it, because I see that there is a, being an atheist, I still see that there is a time to things, because it's like the world is on its own clock.
Yeah.
And you're like a small, very small, my needs and what I want to do is a very small part of it. So there has been forward, there has been a reshuffling of platforms and their agendas and their interests
Mhm.
and what
Mhm.
they need to do to survive themselves and all that. In that, I'm a small person who wants to make films and say something. So it will take time. So that now doesn't bother me as much. A few years ago it used to. But about the audience thing, coming back to that, I think it's just that people kind of consume who you are as well as your art,
Mhm.
and the more embraces that as an artist, the better it is. You start fighting that beyond a point, it
Right.
doesn't make. Even with the Murakami who doesn't come on Instagram, you read, what I talk about when I talk about running, or so there's a lot more going on
Yeah.
than just his writing, all
Mhm.
in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Um.
accepting has helped me find the audience. And then I've
Right.
also realized one important thing, that when I go into the reviews of other filmmakers which have male protagonists, also
Mhm.
indie films,
Right.
I've realized that my audience is women. I mean, it's just mostly like a
Mhm.
lot more, not only just women, but also the feminine in the man. Like there are men
Right.
who are sensitive, and the feminine in them is really strong, and they will like my
Mhm.
films. But it won't
Yeah.
work for men necessarily. Most
Right.
definitely not a tota,
Right.
which I get.
Right. Right.
And if you even go and read the reviews of, let's say, Devashish's work or Shlok's work, or any of my other contemporaries, let's say Nikhil Mahajan, I consider my
Mhm.
contemporary, Party Cinema, or Rohit Mittal's work, it's more of a masculine response on
Yeah.
a letterbox or on IMDb, whereas in my case, it is more women talking. So there is
Yeah.
something to do with the fact that my films seem to affect men and women differently. I think
Mhm.
all films affect men and women differently, but in my case, that seems to have been a little more pronounced. That's what I feel when I look back at the work.
Mhm.
And which is why the film like Devio Hero, it's so, like, I remember there was someone who came for a screening at the office. We had just started to call random people from Instagram, about a year ago, and he started crying when the film got over. And then for the
Mhm.
45 minutes after that, he still was crying. And I asked him, "Do you want me to stop this discussion? Do you want to go into the other room? Do you want to go home?" He said, "No, no, I want to be here," because I didn't know whether he liked the film or not. Like I just saw him
Yeah.
crying.
Mhm.
And after we finished the whole 45-minute discussion, he was still in that state crying. And then he went home. Just that on the way out, I asked him, "But did you like it or dislike it?" He said, "I really loved it." And he left. So I have no idea what, but I know that my films affected men and women differently.
Mhm.
Because even a Devi or hero talks to, a Devya hero talks to that man in the bathroom alone when no one is there.
Yeah.
Now that most men don't want to let out on Instagram or in front of anyone else and talk about what their fantasy life is. How does a porn hub work? Are we all acting? We're all acting like we don't know anything. What are the most popular categories on Pornhub? Interestingly, not enough women know that, but all that's the strange thing about life. No, and this is a part of male kept under wraps, so nobody wants to bring it out anyway. So yeah, that's all. So I realized that my audience is also mostly women, but men and women are reacting very, very differently to my films. That's something that I'm facing even in the new film we've done with Nawaz Saab called "Main Actor Nahi Hoon." Even in that, we're having say. I've not spoken about that yet at all because we've just completed it. But yeah, I've been men and men react to it differently. So.
This is you do this interesting thing. I think you had spoken about it in your TEDx speech, where you don't give yourself time for audience reactions. Like you always said that before my first film is like, was that something that you consciously said that this is what I have to do, or was it like it happened for the first time and then you realized, oh, this actually works for me?
I did it consciously right after because I didn't wait. Yeah, we had already started making and production. I did it consciously again after Toka with Devi. After that, the film stopped releasing only, so it's really easy for me like that. Yeah. But of course, I would say about Not Today that it's not released in its audience market, but it has found, people have slowly watched it outside of India, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has absolutely been, this has been a pleasure. I'm eternally grateful to you that you spent this time with me and you gave me this time. And it was very funny because you're in Germany, and then there was a little time difference issue that happened early morning. But thank you so much for giving me your time and being so honest. And yet again, there is so much for me to think about on what you've said. And I sincerely hope that this reaches to many artists, not just in India but around the world, because I think you are genuinely an inspiration, at least definitely for me. If there's anyone I'd like to be more like, I think you'd definitely be in that list.
That's very sweet, man. It's very odd. I feel very unhumble when I'm saying thanks, Aditya, when you're complimenting Aditya. Thank you.
Well, but no, seriously, thank you so much for being here. We have a little bit of a tradition in the show where I'm going to give you a sentence and then you're going to fill in the adjective. So this is the first time I can say this sentence without people getting confused. So what you have to say is, hi, my name is Aditya, and I felt dash about sailing in the same boat with Aditya.
This is going to be the funnest one because the names are same.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, whenever you're ready, right into the camera.
Okay, my name is Aditya and I felt comfortable about sailing in the same boat with Aditya.
Thank you so much. That was
really sweet of you. Thank you so much. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you watched it all the way up until here, and if you didn't, I don't know, I think you missed out on a lot of good stuff. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you next week. And please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And see you next week. Bye.